Yeah, it is a reasonable position. And, it's a counter offer. That's how you discuss. That's how you negotiate, right? A proposal, and you discuss, right? And I think it was actually probably the most interesting part of the interview, right? Because, she said, what will happen if these measures aren't implemented? He said, immigration will continue, which some have interpreted as being a blackmail. I see it as more as a statement of fact. It's not a blackmail, right? If you don't address the systemic factors underlying immigration, it will continue, regardless of what Mexico does or doesn't do, right? If the United States continues to have an interventionist policy, it continues to apply sanctions and embargoes, right? Migration flows will continue. Right? He's just stating the fact. And, then she follows up saying, does that mean you're not going to cooperate with immigration? He says, no. Basically, calm down, right? But it's amazing how triggered people can get by this. So 60 Minutes, to their credit, devoted a series of tweets to the interview, right? And laid out, right, the proposal that Jose Luis just told us. $20 billion a year for programs that have already been proven to work in Mexico. He's not just pulling programs out of a hat, right? This is Jóvenes Construyendo el Futuro, Young People Building the Future, which is a program of paid work placements for young people that either aren't working or aren't studying, right? And Sembrando Vida, Planting Life, which is an environmental tree planting program, which has now been operating for 5 years in Mexico and is already Mexico's financing it to be extended into Central America. 20 billion a year, right? 20 billion a year is so nothing for the United States. It is so nothing. The military budget is over 800 billion a year, plus supplemental war budgets. $20 billion a year is nothing. Right? Nothing.
I
It's
would you
nothing.
to say.
Compared to how much they've given to Ukraine, $20
And
billion
I think
is nothing.
at the end of the day, they might end up saving money because then they wouldn't be spending so many resources on the militarization of the U.S. southern border, which costs a lot of money, especially with kind of these random moments where they'll deploy the National Guard and all of the costs that incurs, or
Right.
when they put up this barbed wire, which is torn down the next morning, et cetera, right? Ultimately, at the end of the day, it probably would be a cost-saving measure if they actually address the root causes of migration, right? And the Biden administration loves to talk about that, uses that language all the time. But anybody who's actually analyzed what their proposal is, they emphasize private investment, that we need to have the private sector generate jobs there. And the truth is that in the case of Central America in particular, if there isn't incentive, if there isn't support, if there isn't stimulus, these companies are not going to establish themselves. And the solution is not going to come from the private sector. There has to be state intervention to be able to stem the flow of migrants, right? One of the things that López Obrador also always talks about is that migration should be because of people wanting to, not because they have to, right? A lot of the people who leave, I've been to the Guatemala-Mexico border many, many times. Most people will tell you the same thing. They're like, listen, if I had the choice, I would stay. Of course I would. I've mentioned before that I live near the bus terminal here in Mexico City, talking to Venezuelan migrants. They all say the same thing. If the economic situation in my country improves, of course, I'll be on the next plane back because they want to stay in their communities, right? And I think if you actually provide it, like López Obrador is suggesting, then you might actually see a reduction of all those apprehensions that the Republicans are so worried about happening on the U.S. southern border.
Yeah. And I think this underscores what you said before. This is a reasonable proposal. $20 billion is a reasonable ask. And it's for programs that have already been, have a track record, right? This just boggles the mind of, the American paradigm, which is used to shoveling money only into security cooperation, only into police, only into military, right? And only into, private sector subsidies, right? Not something that could actually, work on the ground, right? Even, above and beyond the fact that it's not even that much money. So,
we also saw.
Hold on, let me just get the responses. So,
Exactly.
60 Minutes devotes a tweet to this very reasonable proposal, right, from Mexico's point of view, right, and I just want to read some of the responses to this, right. The president of Mexico's proposal for stemming immigration includes the U.S. commit $20 billion a year to poor countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, lift sanctions on Venezuela, and the Cuban embargo, right, which Obama was working towards, right, not too long ago. It seems like ancient history now. Legalize law-abiding Mexicans living in the U.S., right, who I think have been there over 5 years. Some of the responses from the illuminated American public. How about declare war on Mexico? So basically he is blackmailing. That is what you get from a narco state. How about we just build the wall, arm it with soldiers, and tell them to fuck off? How about you go fuck off and say, this is going to get an R rating today, but whatever. How about no, go fuck yourselves? A true president would tell the president of Mexico to go fuck themselves and then depose them in a coup. Who the hell is he to tell us what to do? It's a money grab and everyone knows it. He could help keep his own people on his side of the border and not allow a flourishing freeway through his country, but no, just hand us money, we'll quiet things down for a couple of months. Then, right, why should the United States of America be piggy bank of the world? They're just giving you a few of these, right? Let's see, scrolling down. Hold on just a second. This is just to give you an idea, right? There's a couple, I think there's a nuclear war gif down here. You know, real subtle stuff. Let's see what else. Alternate proposal. We take 50% of all remittances sent to Mexico as a tax and use it to build a wall while slapping a 50% tariff on all Mexican goods coming into America until Mexico agrees to cooperate with us in securing the border. Right? Considering that Mexico is now United States' #1 supplier, good luck on the tariff idea, right? And see how that raises prices in the U.S. No, shut the damn border and stop remissions back to Mexico and start the largest mass deportation in history. Beggar. AMLO's a beggar, right? Best I can do is go fuck yourself, right? You do realize this is blackmail, right? This is extortion, etc., 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 right? How triggering is this? That one U.S. media outlet once reports on what the Mexican president's counterproposal is. People can't handle it. People simply can't handle it, right? And just this arrogance, right now, American proxies are getting, pretty mauled around the world. American proxies are not doing really well in the world. But that hasn't just put a dent into American arrogance at all. No,
and you can tell.
Bomb them, blackmail station, blah, blah, blah. No. This is why the immigration debate is where it is.